Greetings, this is Dr. Snake with another Temporal Zone transmission. So, retired Major General William Neil McCasland disappeared from his home in Albuquerque a good few weeks back, February 27th, 2026. It's being investigated, but there isn't a big outcry when arguably it's a matter of national security, especially given McCasland's top security clearances and the fact he was in charge of research at the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which has long been rumoured to house debris from non-human craft and to be back engineering alien tech. In short, McCasland likely knows a good deal more than most about the nature of UAP. The reason I'm commenting on this is we might just have key information as to his whereabouts, garnered via visionary, so not hard evidence, but who knows. But I'll get to that shortly. First, we'll look more at the general and his disappearance. Nobody seems to know what happened to McCasland. He was last seen leaving his home in Albuquerque going for a walk near the Sandia Mountains, and searchers apparently found his hiking boots and a shirt, while his wallet, revolver and backpack remain missing. But conflicting reports, so even this is not, is very hard to be certain of. There's such a lot that sort of doesn't make sense. But not least, some reports state that a repairman visited his home on the morning of his disappearance. So who was that repairman? We don't know. I'm sure the sheriff's department and later with the FBI coming in have checked him out thoroughly. But who knows? Who knows what's actually going on? And McCasland's wife apparently had gone to a doctor's appointment. So he was presumably home alone. But when she returned, he was missing. Presumably she would have known he was likely out for a walk, but did he even leave the home in the first place? Again, it's all quite blurred. The authorities and his wife insist there is no evidence that foul play was involved and that his past research work is not relevant. Well, make of that what you will, but his wife also says he had been suffering from mental fog. So that got dropped into the mix, may well be true. But who knows? Who knows? So McCasland had commanded the Air Force Research Lab at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, I said, long alleged to house extraterrestrial debris and technology, including materials linked to the 1947 Roswell incident, which, of course, would have been bits of old weather balloon. But, can we really dismiss his, previous work as not relevant? Plus, of course, there's WikiLeaks leaked emails from 2016 revealing that McCasland was a key advisor to musician, filmmaker and author Tom DeLonge, most known as the frontman with Blink-182. But DeLonge's main project for well over a decade has been his To the Stars Academy, which seeks to find the truth behind UAP. And DeLonge says McCasland was the pivotal figure who he spoke to and met with regularly and supported public disclosure of UAP. And all this, is absolutely, as I say, verified by those WikiLeaks emails. And so it was a unique collaboration. And there must have been an underlying reason for a top US general being involved with the frontman of Blink-182. Or maybe it was simply the general believed that the whole UFO situation should be public. And by then he was retired, but he'd still been under very hard NDAs. So now let's move to our side of things, what Dark Angel picked up via Visionary. She perceived that General McCasland is still alive, but either just in or incarcerated in an underground facility in the northwest of the United States, undergoing heavy-duty questioning. And early on, like when he was abducted, if that were the case, he had something in his mouth, possibly to render him unconscious. And also he left without his glasses, which, you always see him with them, so he probably needs prescription lenses. And he has no home comforts at the facility like bath or shower for some reason, and is wearing a yellow shirt, shorts and a wristwatch, not a smartwatch. And in the underground facility there's a lot of computers and people in lab coats. Key people seem to be 2 women and 3 men. All exude some level of anxiety while questioning McCasland. And the questioning appears to involve numbers and mathematics, possibly equations. They definitely want something from McCasland, but he is not playing ball. So we don't have any tangible evidence to back this up. But if you know of any covert underground facility or have heard rumours of in the northwest United States, let me know in the comments. The facility is apparently very big, where 2 18-wheelers could get through the entrance, presumably a concealed one. My take on the McCasland disappearance is actually it may not be foul play, like the authorities and McCasland's wife contend, but I would see it as part of a special op by classified sections of the CIA to deal with an emergency situation that's going on. Or, of course, it could be private military contractor or contractors that's behind it. And this doesn't go against Dark Angel's Visionary. It's more an interpretation of it and kind of what I pick up myself. And here we have to bear in mind another disappearance that was 9 months ago. That of a former colleague of McCasland's, Monica Reza, who was an aerospace engineer who developed a special metal in rockets, apparently, and the project funded by the US government and overseen by McCasland. And Monica was last seen hiking in the Los Angeles forest with a companion, and that was, last year. Police say Reza was about 30 feet behind her companion, that she was with, and she sort of smiled and waved 30 feet back. And not long after the last kind of wave and smile, the person turned around and she was gone, nowhere to be seen. Eventually, rescue teams searched for days, but nothing was found. And you could ask, are these cases connected? Well, maybe. In my paradigm, there's not foul play, depending how you look at it, but a kind of psyop to get top minds, people in the know, together to deal with a serious emergency or threat, which may well be related to UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomena. McCasland's wife, for example, she seemed almost flippant at one point when she was quoted as saying that it was probably UFOs having taken him to a secret base on Mars, something along those lines, and she might simply have been annoyed at the resultant speculation, especially online, about her husband's disappearance. But one wonders if she is in the know about what actually happened, at least up to a point anyway. Plus, I'd really like to know if the repairman that visited McCasland's home before his disappearance was legit or not, or get some idea about that. That could be an element that gets covered up. Don't know. But in the end, we see the very same modus operandi with McCasland's disappearance as we've seen with the UFO phenomenon for 70, 80 years. And the account put out by the authorities just doesn't add up. It's the same sort of thing. Doesn't add up. Loads of inconsistencies, vagueness, and is ultimately confusing, bewildering. So to be fair, yes, it could be a genuine mystery. Both, McCasland's disappearance and Monica Reza's, but I don't know about that. And if it's not, essentially not foul play, but some kind of special op going on, then, you can wonder what the hell is that? There's been quite a few odd events, over the last year or more. And, you start to think, yes, something's afoot, and this may well be a distraction. Because if you can bewilder people, especially the alternative people, like, UFO people, Reddit, lots of discussion about the mystery, and also the idea of conspiracy going on. It's that crowd that has always really been deflected, with lots of disinformation, conflicting information that causes bewilderment and, almost like head jamming, it kind of works and stops sort of seeing alternatives. But we'll see. But I'm just going to say the confusion rings of a sophisticated psyop.